Hi all, welcome back. Today we're going to do a level 3 vinyasa flow. It's called Let Your Pigeon Soar. So we're going to work up to do flying pigeon. For those who have never done this arm balance, it's a fun deep hip opening arm balance. So we're going to do everything from lots of core work, hip stretching, and hamstring stretches, just a little bit of everything to prepare for this really fun arm balance. For those who haven't done any level 3 vinyasa flows on my YouTube channel, it's going to be pretty invigorating, dynamic, so get ready. And we'll start in down dog. Taking a second or so to settle in your down dog. And gently coming into a still downward facing dog. Shifting your shoulders over your wrists, coming into plank pose. We're going to do chaturanga push-ups. Elbows tucked in, lower halfway without letting your hips sink, and push yourself up. Once again, downward facing dog. We're going to repeat that 2 more times. Shifting forward, plank pose. Chaturanga push-up, lower halfway, and lift, downward facing dog. Last one, shift forward, plank pose, lower halfway, and lift, downward facing dog. Lifting the right leg up towards the ceiling, opening the hip, bending the knee. Releasing that right frontal hip, making sure that both ribs are facing down, so both sides of the ribs. And gently closing it off. Keeping the leg lifted, shift forward into 3-legged plank. Lower halfway, chaturanga, 3-legged chaturanga. And all the way up, back into 3-legged down dog. Lower the right foot, lift the left foot. Open the hip, bend the knee, reaching the left heel towards the left glute, making sure both armpits are facing down. And closing it off, shifting into 3-legged plank, lowering halfway, 3-legged chaturanga push-up, back up, 3-legged down dog, lowering the left foot to meet the right. Inhale, and on the exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step or float towards the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, and come all the way up to standing. Hands in front of the heart. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with 3 Surya Namaskar A's. Feel free to do it at your own pace. Modify as you need. This is an advanced class, so I might give a little less modifications than usual. So from here, inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, float back through your chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. 3 full rounds of breath in your down dog. And in the next exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step or float towards the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, and come all the way up to standing, hands in front of the heart. 2 more. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward, heart leads down. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, step or float back through your vinyasa. And meeting in downward facing dog. 3 rounds of breath. And in the next exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step or float towards the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, and come all the way up to standing. Last one, inhale, arms up. Exhale, swan dive down. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. If you're hopping back, make sure your shoulders aren't dipping. And we meet in downward facing dog. On the next exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step or hop towards the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, and come all the way up to standing. Hands in front of the heart. And lowering into Malasana Yogi Squat. Bringing your hands in front of your heart as you push the knees out, lengthening through the crown of the head. Now, if you want to try the first arm balance of the class, we're going to take crow pose. And feel free to shoot back. We'll all meet in down dog. So if you want to try shooting back through plank and chaturanga, feel free to do so. Placing your hands shoulder width apart, coming onto the tip toes, shifting the hips up, rounding the upper back, broadening the upper back. Knees into the armpit as you shift forward, lifting the toes. And whenever you're ready, we'll meet in downward facing dog. I'll give you a couple more seconds so we all meet in down dog. From down dog, you're going to step the right foot outside of the right hand. Keeping the back leg extended. If it's too much, feel free to place the back knee on the mat. You're going to lower onto your forearms, coming into lizard pose. If this is too much, you can always place the knee down and it might feel a little better. And feel free to open the right hip if it feels nice. And if you're on your forearms, come onto your hands, wiggling the right foot between both hands. Placing the back heel down, parallel to the back of the mat. Keeping the right hand where it is, you're going to extend the left arm next to your ear, coming into extended side angle. Making sure the low ribs are rotating towards the ceiling. Left arm is next to the ear, palm of the hand is facing up. And gently coming all the way up, warrior two, walking the left hand along the left leg, right arm reaching back, inhale, and on the exhale, windmill your hands down, go through your vinyasa, meeting in down dog, stepping the left foot back. Feel free to modify and do it with your knees on the mat or skip them if you feel like you need to save energy for the rest of the sequence. From down dog, take the left foot outside of the left hand. If you lowered your knee on the other side, you can do so on this side. If not, from here, come onto your forearms. If the forearms is way too much, feel free to stay on your hands. Making sure you're not collapsing down. Both hip bones are facing forward. And gently lifting back up, placing your hands on the mat, wiggling the left foot between your hands. Placing the back heel down, reaching the right arm forward, extended side angle as the left hip crease reaches back. Rolling the lower ribs up, opening the whole torso towards the right side of the mat. And come all the way up, warrior two. Walking the right hand along the right leg, extending the left side of the body. Inhale. And on the exhale, windmill your hands down. Going through your vinyasa, stepping the left foot back. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Down dog, inhale, and on the exhale, bend the knees, look forward, step or float towards the front of the mat. Feel the pulling of the belly button if you're jumping forward. Use the core. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold, and come all the way up to standing. Hands in front of the heart. So hopefully we're warmed up. We're going to go through a couple Utkatasana chair poses in today's class. So I hope you're ready for this fierce pose. Inhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. Either big toes together or feet hip width apart. Lower your sits bones. Knees are behind the toes. Arms are next to the ears. Palms of the hands face each other. Broadening the chest. Lower a little deeper. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Forward fold. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, float back through your vinyasa. We'll meet in down dog. From downward facing dog, lift the right leg up towards the ceiling. Open the hip, bend the knee. Keeping the torso neutral, releasing that right frontal hip. Now slowly you're going to come, closing the hip and bringing the shin towards your arms. So the foot is close to the left arm and the knee is close to the right arm. Like if you were going to do pigeon. And you're going to lower the shin to hover over the mat and lift. 2 more. Lower and lift. Last one. Lower and lift. Come back into 3-legged down dog. Hips are closed. Right knee into the nose, placing the foot between your hands, crescent lunge. Bending both knees to really keep neutral hips facing forward, arms long. Hold here. Finding as if you had a string pulling you through the crown of the head. Lower a little deeper into that front leg. And lower your hands back down. Optional vinyasa or meet in down dog. Other side, lift the left foot up. Open the hip, bend the knee. Both sides of the torso are facing down. Gently closing off the leg, bringing the shin towards your arms. Opening the hip as if you were going to do pigeon. Inhale and lower the leg to hover, trying to keep the hips high. And lift. Lower and lift. 1 more. Lower and lift. Lengthen left leg back and up. Left knee into the nose, placing the foot between your hands, crescent lunge. Lifting the torso. Both hips are facing forward, bending both knees. Arms are long. Hold here. And lower the hands down. Optional vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. Remember, we still are halfway through, so you might want to save your energy. And from down dog, bend your knees. Look forward, step or float towards the front of the mat. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Utkatasana, chair pose. Brief chair pose. Inhale and lengthen the legs. Bring the hands in front of the heart. A little more hip openers. We're going to come into eagle pose. So shifting the weight towards the right foot. Crossing the left thigh over the right as we bend into the right leg. Maybe you get the single bind, or maybe you get the double bind by taking the foot outside of the standing leg. The more you bend into it, the easier it is to bind. And now wrap the left arm under, right arm over as you press either the palms of the hands together or the back of the hands together. Sit into it, breathe, and release everything. We're going to do the other side. Shifting the weight towards the left foot. Taking the right thigh over the left thigh. bending the standing leg, maybe wrapping the right leg behind the calf, right arm, right arm under, left arm over, as you sit into it and lift the elbows up, broadening the back, upper back. And hold, breathe. And release everything. Here we go. We're getting to the peak part of class. Inhale, arms up. On the exhale, shift forward. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, plant the hands next to the feet, step or hop towards the back of the mat, meeting in down dog. Inhale, lift the right leg, bringing the right shin forward, coming into pigeon pose, opening the right hip, placing the shin down, making sure both hips are facing forward. We're not splurging out to the side. Left leg lengthens back, and surrender down. Not resisting the hip opener. Relaxing the torso over your mat. Your hips will be really happy with you after this class. And placing your hands back down, lifting the torso. Placing the back toes onto the mat, you're going to take the right leg back directly into a downward facing dog with figure 4 legs. So shift the hips up, taking the right leg back. Maybe bending the left leg a little to really get into that hip as you push the hands away from the mat. And now you're going to start walking your hands back towards your left foot into this forward fold. Inhale and lift. Last one on this side into this figure 4 chair pose. Just one breath and once again fold forward. Now we're going to prepare for flying pigeon. So we're going to begin to bend our arms. You might want to walk it out just a little to give you space. You're going to lower your hips slightly and bend your arms into chaturanga arms. Hooking the foot outside of the left arm and stacking the right knee over the upper arm. And begin to shift the weight forward as you lengthen the left leg back. And begin to play with that. Maybe you won't lengthen the left leg back. Maybe you'll just stay here as you shift the weight forward. And whenever you're ready, having fun and playing with it, we'll meet in a squatting position. So it's important to shift the weight forward, and sometimes it gets getting used to yourself shifting because it might feel like you're going to fall forward. And at the beginning, it's just lifting the leg just slightly to get used to it. And with time, you'll begin to become more comfortable and get the courage to extend the leg. From here, we're going to sit down onto the mat, taking the right leg down, left leg over, double pigeon, making sure you're stacking the left heel over the right knee, left knee over the right heel, and fold over your legs. You should be pretty open in your hips by now. And lift yourself back up. Find your way into down dog. We're going to get ready to do the other side. Taking the left shin towards the front of the mat, pigeon pose on the left side. Reaching the right leg back. Both hip bones are facing forward, squaring off the hips, and surrender down. So when we begin to build on to our practice, we begin to find the commonalities, if that's a word, in the poses. So the reason why we did dead crow at the beginning, that core exercise, and then crow, is because that action of pushing the floor away and broadening the upper back, pulling the belly button in, is the same action you find in flying pigeon, to lift the legs off. It's the scooping of the belly button. And the more we practice, the more our body begins to remember this and understand the movement and the engagement of certain aspects of the body to do certain movements. It is that very common phrase that yogis say, it's that mind-body connection. And gently lift yourself back up, placing your hands onto the mat, placing the back toes, taking it back into this figure 4 down dog. Maybe bending that standing leg to really get into that hip as you push the knee out. And walk your hands back towards your foot. Forward fold. And now, just a brief last chair pose for today. Reaching the torso up, figure 4 chair pose. And fold forward. Now, placing your hands shoulder width apart. Bending the elbows back into chaturanga, placing the left knee into the upper arm and hooking the foot outside of the right upper arm. If you're splurging your elbows out, it's going to be very hard to hold this. They need to be chaturanga, arms back. There's that scooping of the belly button, rounding of the upper back, lifting. And maybe just start by lifting just a tad bit the back leg. And then you might want to extend and play with that. And we'll all meet once again in that squatting position. And this time, bringing the left shin down, stacking the right heel over the left knee, making sure you're really stacking it, almost being a perfectionist here, because the more you are, the more it's really well stacked, the more you'll feel it. And fold over. Resting the torso over your thighs. Really deep hip opener, double pigeon. But after so much hip opening today, it might just be the day where you can get into it and release. This place where in many Eastern philosophies, they believe that we carry emotions. So as we release this, we're also releasing all that built up emotions. And gently coming up, finding our way onto our backs. To finish today's class, we're going to do a couple heart openers. Feel free to do your own version or what you feel like doing. We didn't do that many heart openers today, so be mindful. You can do, I'm going to do 2 bridges, 1 wheel. Feel free to do it in whatever order or skip it, whatever feels right. Arms next to the torso. As you push the arms against the mat, push the heels, lift the hips, interlacing the hands under the hips, shoving the shoulders under the heart, and lift, making sure the thighs are hip width apart. After so much core, and this might feel really nice. And release down. So I'm going to do 1 more of these and then full wheel. Feel free to follow me or do whatever is good for you today. And inhale, lift. Shoving the shoulders, the heart pushes towards the roof of the mouth as the heels push back. And release down. Keeping the feet hip width apart. Arms come next to your ears. Elbows are in chaturanga form. And we're going to lift towards the crown of the head and push ourselves all the way up into full wheel, making sure that we straighten our arms fully. And then from there, you can push yourself back, opening the heart, keeping the knees bent and the low back lengthened. The glutes aren't over-engaged, so they don't crunch the low back. And slowly, the same way you came up, lower all the way down, bringing the knees into the chest, massaging the low back, opening your arms in a T, letting the knees fall over towards the right as you look towards the left, and this time let them do their own thing. The knees don't need to be stacked. And release here. Feel all the goodness. And coming back through center, keeping the transitions gentle, taking the knees towards the left, looking over towards the right. And coming back through center, lengthening the legs forward, bringing the arms next to the torso. Surrender. The beauty of doing these really dynamic, invigorating, fiery classes is how present you really have to be throughout the class. How attentive and present. So once you arrive to Shavasana, you can just melt onto your mat, releasing any control over your breath, your mind, your muscles. I really encourage you to take a really long and juicy Shavasana to get all the goodness of today's class. But I will leave you here. I hope you enjoyed, had fun with it. Namaste.